The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between two bright stars. Inside its metal halls, creatures from across the galaxy gathered in fear. The emergency meeting had been called 3 days ago, and representatives from 47 different worlds now sat in the Great Council chamber. Ambassador Taeho straightened his blue uniform as he walked into the room. He was the only human among all these alien beings. Some had forearms, others had scales instead of skin, and a few floated in glass tanks filled with strange gas. They all looked at him with curious eyes, but not with respect. To them, humans were still the new kids in the galaxy. The holographic display in the center of the room showed a terrifying sight. Red dots marked the locations where entire star systems had gone dark. The Vorthak horde was moving through space like a hungry beast, eating everything in its path. Their bioships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh, and they had already destroyed 3 major civilizations. Council Director Melvara, a tall being with purple skin and 6 eyes, called for order. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she spoke about the terrible threat facing them all. The Vorthak had emerged from the empty space at the edge of the galaxy, bringing death wherever they went. "We must evacuate the outer colonies," said Ambassador Kextol from the Siluri Collective. His people were known for their advanced technology, and his metal body gleamed under the chamber lights. "Our analysis shows the Vorthak cannot be stopped by conventional weapons." General Vorthak of the Krathan Empire slammed his massive fist on his desk. The warrior race had fought many battles across the galaxy, and his scarred face showed his experience. "Evacuation is for cowards. We must meet them in battle and show them the strength of civilized worlds." The 2 powerful civilizations began to argue about the best strategy. The Solari wanted to use their advanced shields and energy weapons to create defensive barriers. The Krathan preferred direct attacks with their heavy warships and warrior crews. Other council members joined the debate, each species offering their own ideas. Taeho listened quietly, studying the tactical displays that showed the enemy movements. He had been a military officer before becoming a diplomat, and his trained eye caught things that others missed. The alien strategies all followed the same basic patterns, either run away or charge straight ahead. Either approach seemed very smart against an enemy that had already proven itself against such tactics. "What about the human proposal?" asked a small voice from the corner. Ambassador Yelsina from the peaceful Zephyr worlds had always been friendly to humans. They offered to help in the defense. Military Director Veltar laughed, a harsh sound that made several smaller aliens flinch. The 3-headed reptilian being was known for his arrogance and his hatred of newer species. The humans? These soft mammals have been in space for less than 100 years. What could they possibly know about real combat? "They have no significant military experience," added Commander Hexara from the Technological Union. "Their primitive ships would only get in the way of proper military forces. Perhaps they could help evacuate refugees or carry supplies." Taeho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing anger in the council chamber only made things worse for humanity. Instead, he made careful notes about the alien fleet formations displayed on the screens. Every military force in the galaxy seemed to use the same basic tactics: massive frontal assaults or careful defensive positions. The debate continued for hours. The Krathan wanted to lead a Grand Alliance fleet into battle, charging straight at the Vorthak with all weapons firing. The Solari preferred to build a series of defensive lines, using their advanced technology to create barriers that could slow down the enemy advance. "We will assign sectors to each military force," announced Director Melvara finally. "The Krathan Empire will lead the main assault. The Solari Collective will coordinate defensive positions. Other species will provide support based on their capabilities." She looked at Taeho with what might have been pity. "The human forces will be assigned to Safe Zone Gamma, far from the main battle. They can assist with medical support and refugee evacuation." Several alien representatives nodded in agreement. To them, this seemed like a reasonable use of humanity's limited abilities. Taeho simply bowed his head politely and thanked the council for including humans in the defense effort. As the meeting ended and the various aliens filed out of the chamber, Taeho remained in his seat. He activated his communication device, and sent an encrypted message back to Earth. The message was simple but carried huge meaning for his species. On Earth, General Yijun received the communication in his office at the Global Defense Headquarters. The older man had gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind was still sharp after decades of military service. He read the message twice, then called for his senior staff. Within an hour, the most important military leaders on Earth gathered in the secure briefing room. Admiral Sora, a woman known for her brilliant tactical mind, reviewed the alien intelligence data that Taeho had been sending home for months. Captain Hyun-woo, commander of humanity's newest battleship, studied the technical specifications of Vorthak bioships. "They want us to stay in the safe zone and play nurse," Admiral Sora said with a slight smile. "They have no idea what they're dealing with." General Yijun nodded slowly. "The aliens see us as children because we're new to space. They don't understand that we've been at war with each other for thousands of years. Every human civilization has been built on the foundations of conflict." Dr. Jae-sung, the military scientist, pulled up displays showing human weapons and ship designs. "Our technology may be newer, but it's built on principles they've never considered. We don't just fight to win. We fight to survive." The room fell, quiet as the leaders considered their options. Earth's military had been preparing for galactic conflict since first contact with alien civilizations. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful newcomers, Earth's generals had been studying every piece of alien military data they could find. "Begin mobilization," General Yijun ordered finally. "Full battle readiness for all fleets, and send word to Captain Hyun-woo, prepare Seoul's Pride for immediate deployment." As the human leaders began their preparations, none of them knew that they were about to change the galaxy's understanding of warfare forever. The aliens expected humans to hide in safe zones and help with medical care. They had no idea that humanity was about to teach the galaxy what real combat looked like. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of Seoul's Pride, watching the stars stretch into lines as his ship jumped through hyperspace. Behind him, 50 other human vessels followed in perfect formation. The human defense fleet was moving toward the war zone while the alien civilizations were still arguing about battle plans. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Lieutenant Won-shik monitored enemy communications, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he decoded Vorthak signals. The young officer had always been good with languages, but alien communication patterns fascinated him even more than human ones. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from Nexus Prime," reported Communications Officer Dae-yun. She was barely 25 years old, but her calm voice never showed stress even in dangerous situations. The message appeared on the main screen. Council Director Melvara's face looked tired and worried. "All human forces are ordered to maintain position in Safe Zone Gamma. You will assist with refugee evacuation and medical support only. Do not engage enemy forces without direct authorization from Galactic Command." Hyun-woo smiled slightly. "Acknowledge the message, Da-yun. Tell them we understand our assignment." What the Council didn't understand was that humans had a different definition of medical support and refugee evacuation. Every human ship carried advanced combat medical facilities, but they also carried enough firepower to level a small moon. The refugees they planned to create would be Vorthak survivors wondering what had hit them. Back on Earth, the mobilization continued at incredible speed. Admiral Sora's flagship, the massive carrier Busan Thunder, launched from Luna Base with a full complement of fighter craft. Each pilot had trained for years in combat simulations based on alien technology, but they had also learned from thousands of years of human warfare. Colonel Minji gathered her Special Forces team in the briefing room of their stealth ship. The men and women under her command were experts in boarding actions, sabotage, and close combat. While alien militaries focused on ship-to-ship battles, humans had never forgotten that wars were ultimately won by soldiers willing to look their enemies in the eye. "Intelligence reports suggest the Vorthak use bioships that can repair themselves," Minji explained to her team. "But every biological system has weaknesses. Our job is to find them and exploit them." Dr. Jae-sung worked around the clock in his laboratory, studying captured alien technology and developing countermeasures. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had shared their weapons data freely, never imagining that humans might use that information in unexpected ways. The Vorthak bioships use a form of organic metal that responds to electrical signals, he explained to his research team. The aliens are trying to develop energy weapons that can disrupt these signals. But I think we're approaching the problem wrong. His assistant, Dr. Haye Jin, looked up from her microscope. What do you mean? They're trying to destroy the biometal directly. But what if we could make it work for us instead? Every biological system can be infected, corrupted, or turned against itself. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Wan Shik had made a breakthrough in understanding Vorthak communications. The alien signals weren't just random noise. They followed patterns that revealed something important about how the enemy operated. Captain, I think I figured out how they coordinate their attacks. Wan Shik reported excitedly. They're using a hive mind system, but it's not as advanced as the aliens think. There are predictable patterns in their battle formations. Captain Hyunwoo studied the data his communications officer had compiled. The Vorthak moved in complex patterns that looked random, but careful analysis showed they were following pre-programmed responses to specific situations. They're like a computer program, he realized. Very sophisticated, but still following rules. Exactly. And if they're following rules, we can predict what they'll do next. More importantly, we can do things they won't expect because they can't think outside their programming. The human fleet continued toward the battle zone, but they weren't rushing blindly into combat like the alien forces. Every ship carried specialists who understood different aspects of warfare. Engineers who could repair damage during battle. Medics who could treat both human and alien wounded. Linguists who could decode enemy communications in real time. Admiral Sora reviewed the latest intelligence reports from her command center. The Galactic Alliance had assembled the largest military force in recorded history. Millions of ships from dozens of civilizations, all preparing for a massive frontal assault against the Vorthak horde. They're going to get slaughtered, she said quietly to her chief of staff. Look at these formation plans. Every single alien military uses the same basic strategy. Either charge straight ahead or sit still and shoot. The Vorthak have already proven they can handle both approaches. What about our orders to stay in the safe zone? Asked her aide. Sora smiled coldly. Our orders are to assist with medical support and refugee evacuation. I intend to follow those orders exactly. We're going to create a lot of refugees, Vorthak refugees who survive our medical assistance. The first major battle between the Galactic Alliance and the Vorthak horde began 3 days later. Captain Hyunwoo watched the engagement from the edge of Safe Zone Gamma, his sensors recording every detail of the conflict. The alien fleets attacked in massive formations, just as their military doctrine required. Millions of ships advanced, in perfect lines, firing energy weapons and launching missiles in coordinated volleys. It was an impressive sight that demonstrated the technological power of galactic civilization. The Vorthak response was equally impressive, but much more effective. Their bioships moved like living creatures, adapting to each attack and learning from every enemy tactic. They didn't fight like machines following programmed responses. They fought like a single, intelligent organism that could think and plan. Within 6 hours, the Galactic Alliance had lost nearly 30% of its fleet. The surviving alien ships retreated in disorder, their perfect formations broken and their commanders in shock. Captain, Wan Shik reported from his communication station, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different alien fleets. They're requesting immediate medical assistance and evacuation support. Captain Hyunwoo looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These young men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. They had studied every form of combat that humans had ever developed, from ancient sword fighting to modern space warfare. All ships, this is Seoul's pride, prepare for combat operations. Our orders are to provide medical assistance and evacuation support. We're going to follow those orders, in our own way. The human fleet began to move out of Safe Zone Gamma, heading toward the battlefield where alien survivors waited for help. But Captain Hyunwoo's definition of help would soon shock both sides of the conflict. Admiral Sora received the tactical reports and nodded approvingly. Signal all fleet commanders. Operation Human Kindness is now in effect. Show the galaxy. What happens when Earth's children decide to help? Admiral Sora stood in the command center of her flagship, watching the tactical display that showed the chaos of the recent battle. Alien ships drifted helplessly in space, their crews either dead or desperately sending distress signals. The Vorthak bioships moved through the wreckage like sharks, finishing off damaged vessels and absorbing their technology. "Ma'am, we're receiving priority signals from the Council," reported her communications officer. "They're ordering all human forces to begin immediate evacuation of survivors." Sora smiled grimly. "Acknowledge their orders. Tell them we're moving to assist immediately." She turned to her tactical officer. "Signal the fleet. All ships advance. To combat positions. Operation Human Kindness begins now." The massive human fleet emerged from behind the moon of Kepler, 442b, like ghosts materializing from the darkness. 51 ships moved in formations that confused both alien observers and Vorthak bioships. Instead of the neat lines that galactic military doctrine required, the humans spread out in complex patterns that seemed almost random. Captain Hyunwoo felt the familiar excitement of combat as Seoul's pride led the advance. "Daun, signal. Captain Jin's squadron, begin Seoul Gambit formation. One Shik, are you reading the Vorthak communications clearly?" "Yes, sir," the young linguist replied. "They're confused by our approach. Their coordination signals are becoming erratic." On the Council space station, Ambassador Taeho watched the tactical feeds with satisfaction. The alien representatives around him stared in shock as human ships moved in ways that defied everything they understood about space warfare. "What are they doing?" demanded General Vorthak of the Krathan Empire. "Those formations make no tactical sense." Military Director Veltar's three heads looked in different directions as he tried to follow the human fleet movements. "They're ignoring all proper military procedure. This is chaos." Taeho stood calmly and addressed the confused aliens. "Gentlemen, you're about to see why humanity has survived every war we've ever fought. We don't just follow rules, we make them up as we go." The first human strike came from Captain Da-Yun's fighter wing. Her small, fast ships darted between Vorthak biovessels like angry insects, striking at weak points that the aliens had never noticed. Instead of trying to destroy the massive enemy ships directly, the human fighters targeted specific systems. That would cause maximum confusion. Major Kyung-ho led the first boarding party against a damaged Vorthak command ship. His Marines moved through the alien corridors with a confidence that shocked their enemies. The Vorthak had fought many species, but they had never encountered soldiers who seemed to enjoy combat as much as humans did. "Remember your training?" Kyung-ho called to his team over their comm system. "These things think they know violence. Show them what Earth teaches its children." The human Marines didn't just fight. They adapted to each situation with a creativity that the hive-minded Vorthak couldn't understand. When conventional weapons proved ineffective against bioarmor, they used improvised explosives made from ship components. When corridors were too narrow for normal tactics, they created new ways to attack. Dr. Hyejin worked frantically in her mobile medical bay, treating wounded from both sides of the conflict. But her medical treatment included releasing biological agents that she had developed specifically to counter Vorthak biotechnology. Every enemy she helped became a carrier for viruses that would spread through the HiveMind network. Commander Jin's squadron executed the most complex part of the Seoul Gambit, a 17-vector attack that hit the main Vorthak formation from every possible angle simultaneously. The human ships moved in patterns that seemed to follow no logical system, making it impossible for the enemy's predictive systems to calculate responses. The key to the maneuver was its complete unpredictability. Each human captain made individual decisions based on training and instinct, rather than following programmed responses. The Vorthak hive mind, designed to counter organized military tactics, couldn't process the chaos of truly independent thinking. Lieutenant Wan Shik monitored the enemy communications and reported something extraordinary. "Captain, their coordination is breaking down. The hive mind is receiving too many conflicting signals. They're starting to attack each other." Captain Hyunwoo grinned as he watched Vorthak bioships turn their weapons on their own allies. That's the beauty of fighting a hive mind. They're only as strong as their weakest link, and we just became their weakest link. Sergeant Youngsu's Special Operations Team achieved something the galaxy had thought impossible. They captured a living Vorthak hive node. The creature was a massive biomechanical hybrid that served as a communication center for the enemy fleet. Instead of destroying it, the humans used techniques developed from centuries of interrogation experience. "We're not going to hurt you," Youngsu explained to the confused alien entity. "We just want to talk. And while we're talking, my friends, here are going to study how your communication system works." The psychological approach confused the hive node more than physical torture would have. The creature had been designed to resist pain and fear, but it had no defense against human curiosity and genuine interest in understanding how it functioned. Dr. Jae Sung arrived with his research team and began analyzing the living Vorthak technology. Within hours, they had developed a way to inject false signals into the hive mind network. The Vorthak fleet began receiving contradictory orders that sent them flying in circles. Back on the council station, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as human forces systematically dismantled Vorthak positions that had seemed unbeatable just hours before. The tactical displays showed impossible things: human ships appearing where they shouldn't be, enemy formations collapsing for no apparent reason, and battle outcomes that defied every military computer model. "How are they doing this?" whispered Ambassador Kextol from the Solari Collective. His advanced analytical systems couldn't process what they were seeing. Taeho smiled at the confused aliens. "You've been fighting wars the same way for thousands of years. You build bigger ships, develop more powerful weapons, and train your crews to follow orders perfectly. But humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We've learned that the best weapon isn't technology. It's the ability to think in ways your enemy can't predict." Admiral Sora's flagship moved into the heart of the Vorthak formation, its weapon systems firing in patterns that seemed random, but were actually coordinated with 17 other human ships. The bioships tried to respond to each individual threat, but the hive mind couldn't process so many simultaneous and unrelated attacks. Colonel Minji's special forces had infiltrated the main Vorthak command vessel and were working their way toward the central brain core. Her team moved through alien corridors like they owned them, adapting their tactics to each new obstacle, with the same creativity their ancestors had used to survive ice ages and natural disasters. The turning point came when Captain Sung Min's engineering team reverse-engineered a damaged Vorthak bioship in the middle of battle. Instead of trying to destroy the alien technology, they figured out how to control it. The captured bioship turned its weapons on its former allies, spreading even more chaos through the hive mind network. "Sir," reported Wan Shik excitedly, "the entire Vorthak fleet is beginning to retreat. Their coordination system has completely collapsed." Captain Hyunwoo watched the enemy ships fleeing in disorder and felt a moment of satisfaction, but he knew the war was far from over. "Signal Admiral Sora. Phase 1 is complete. Request permission to begin pursuit operations." The response came back immediately. "Permission granted. Show them that humans don't just win battles, we end wars." As the human fleet regrouped and prepared to chase the fleeing Vorthak forces, the galaxy watched in amazement. The species they had dismissed as inexperienced newcomers had just accomplished something that the combined military might of 47 civilizations had failed to do. The real surprise was yet to come. The council chambers had never been so quiet. Ambassador Taeho stood at his podium while 46 alien representatives stared at the tactical displays in complete silence. The real-time battle feeds showed human forces systematically hunting down Vorthak ships that had terrorized the galaxy for months. Council Director Melvara's 6 eyes blinked rapidly as she tried to process what she was seeing. "Ambassador Taeho, your species was assigned to evacuation and medical support duties. Can you explain why human forces are currently leading a combat pursuit of enemy vessels?" Taeho smiled politely. "Director, we are following our orders exactly as given. We're providing medical support to wounded Vorthak survivors and evacuating them from their damaged ships. The fact that this process involves boarding actions and weapons fire is simply a necessary part of the evacuation procedure. General Vorthak slammed his massive fist on his desk again, but this time it seemed less angry and more confused. In 3 hours, your people have accomplished more than our entire military alliance managed in 3 days. How is this possible? With respect, General, I think you're asking the wrong question, Tejo replied calmly. The question isn't how we're doing this. The question is why you thought it would be difficult. On the main display, Captain Sungmin's engineering team was doing something that made several alien observers physically sick. They were dissecting a captured Vorthak bioship while it was still alive, learning how its systems worked and then using that knowledge to control other bioships remotely. This is barbaric, exclaimed Ambassador Yelsina from the peaceful Zephyr worlds. They're torturing a living creature. Dr. Hyajin's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional as she worked. The bioship doesn't experience pain the way organic creatures do. We're simply studying its neural pathways to understand how the hive mind controls individual units, and our research is already paying off. As she spoke, 3 more Vorthak bioships suddenly turned away from their fleet and began attacking their own forces. The humans had figured out how to send false commands through the hive mind network, turning the enemy's greatest strength against them. Commander Hexara from the Technological Union leaned forward in her chair. Our most advanced computer systems have been trying to decode Vorthak communication patterns for months. How did humans accomplish this in a matter of hours? Lieutenant Wanshik appeared on the communication screen, his young face excited but focused. Ma'am, the Vorthak aren't actually that complicated. They use a hive mind system, which means they think in very predictable patterns. Once you understand the basic structure, you can manipulate it pretty easily. Easily? Military Director Veltar's 3 heads spoke in unison. Our best analysts said it was impossible. Wanshik shrugged. Maybe your analysts were thinking too much like machines. The hive mind is biological, so we approached it like we were dealing with any other living system. Every biological system has weaknesses. The display switched to show Sergeant Youngsu's interrogation of the captured hive node. What the aliens saw challenged everything they thought they knew about information extraction. Instead of using torture or mind-reading technology, the human was simply talking to the creature. I'm curious about your reproduction cycle, Youngsu was saying conversationally. Do new nodes develop naturally, or does the central intelligence create them when needed? The hive node, designed to resist every form of coercion the galaxy had ever developed, found itself answering questions simply because the humans seemed genuinely interested. Within an hour, Youngsu had extracted more tactical intelligence than alien interrogators had gathered in months of conventional efforts. Captain Dayun's fighter squadron demonstrated another aspect of human warfare that confused galactic observers. Her pilots weren't just following attack patterns. They were improvising new tactics in real time, adapting to each situation with a creativity that made their movements impossible to predict. Watch how they coordinate, observed Ambassador Kextol, his analytical systems working frantically to understand the human tactics. Each pilot makes independent decisions, but somehow they work together perfectly. It's like watching a dance where no one knows the steps but everyone moves in perfect harmony. Admiral Sora's voice came through the communication system, addressing the council directly. Honored representatives, I want to clarify something that seems to be causing confusion. Humans don't fight wars the way you do. You treat combat like an engineering problem. Build better weapons, train soldiers to follow orders, and apply force in predictable ways. She paused as her flagship's weapons destroyed another Vorthak bioship. We treat combat like an art form. Every battle is different, every enemy requires a unique approach, and every soldier is trained to think creatively rather than just follow orders. Major Kyung-ho's boarding party had captured their 5th Vorthak vessel of the day, and his Marines were already stripping it for useful technology. But what impressed the alien observers was how efficiently the humans integrated captured alien systems into their own equipment. Sir, we figured out how their bioarmor works, reported one of Kyung-ho's Marines. It responds to electrical impulses from the nervous system. If we can generate the right signals, we can control their own armor against them. Within minutes, human Marines were wearing modified Vorthak bioarmor that made them nearly invulnerable to enemy weapons. The aliens watched in amazement as human soldiers turned the enemy's own technology into weapons against them. Dr. Jae-sung's research team had set up a mobile laboratory on a captured Vorthak command ship. They were developing countermeasures to bioship technology faster than the enemy could adapt to their attacks. Every few hours, they released new biological agents that disrupted Vorthak systems in different ways. The key is understanding that biology is just chemistry, Dr. Jae-sung explained to the fascinated council observers. And chemistry follows predictable rules. Once you understand the rules, you can manipulate any biological system. General Yi-jun appeared on the main display coordinating human forces from his command center on Earth. The older man looked tired but satisfied as he watched his people demonstrate the art of war to an amazed galaxy. Esteemed council members, he said formally, I want to address some concerns that have been raised about human military methods. You seem to think we're particularly violent or aggressive compared to other species. He gestured to displays showing human medical teams treating wounded aliens alongside captured Vorthak specimens. The truth is simpler than that. We're just very, very good at violence. We've been practicing it for thousands of years, against each other and against every hostile environment our planet could create. Colonel Minji's special forces had infiltrated the main Vorthak stronghold and were systematically dismantling their command structure. Her team moved through alien facilities like they belonged there, adapting to each new challenge with the same casual competence their ancestors had shown when hunting mammoths. Ma'am, we've located the Central Intelligence Corps, reported one of her soldiers. It's more complex than we expected, but the basic principles are the same. Every hive mind needs a central processing unit. The Krathan Empire, known throughout the galaxy for their military prowess, sent a formal request to human command asking for tactical advisors. The proud warrior race had watched human combat operations and realized they had been thinking about warfare all wrong. The Solari Collective, with their advanced technology and analytical capabilities, requested permission to study human combat psychology. Their computer models couldn't explain how humans achieved such effective coordination without central command and control systems. Even the peaceful Zephyr worlds, traditionally opposed to all forms of violence, sent diplomatic messages asking humans to teach them defensive strategies. They had realized that sometimes the best way to preserve peace was to be prepared for war. Captain Hyunwoo stood on his bridge, watching the final Vorthak stronghold burn in the distance. His crew worked quietly at their stations, already preparing for the next phase of operations. The galaxy was beginning to understand what humans were capable of, but the real lesson was yet to come. Captain, reported Won-shik, we're receiving surrender offers from the surviving Vorthak units. They want to negotiate terms. Hyunwoo smiled. Put them through to Admiral Sora. Let her explain to them what unconditional surrender means in human terms. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just win wars, they ended them permanently. The final Vorthak stronghold looked like a massive metal flower growing out of an asteroid. Its biomechanical petals stretched for kilometers in every direction, housing millions of enemy troops and the central intelligence that had controlled the entire horde. For 6 months, this fortress had been the source of terror that threatened to consume the galaxy. General Yi-jun stood in the command center of his flagship, studying tactical displays that showed human forces surrounding the stronghold. After weeks of systematic pursuit, the scattered Vorthak fleets had retreated to their ultimate sanctuary. Now it was time to end the war once and for all. Admiral Sora, report on fleet status, he requested. All human task forces are in position, General, came the reply. We have 17 different attack vectors prepared, with diversionary forces ready to implement the Sol Protocol on your command. The Sol Protocol was humanity's most complex military strategy, a simultaneous attack on multiple targets, while broadcasting false communications to confuse enemy coordination systems. It required precise timing and the ability to adapt rapidly as the situation changed. No alien military had ever attempted anything so complicated. On the Council space station, Representatives from across the galaxy watched the tactical displays with a mixture of anticipation and fear. In just 3 weeks, human forces had accomplished what the combined alien militaries had failed to do in 6 months of fighting. Ambassador Tejo stood quietly at his station, monitoring communications from the human fleet. The other council members looked at him with expressions that ranged from respect to outright awe. The species they had dismissed as inexperienced newcomers had proven to be the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Ambassador," said Council Director Melvara, "your General Yi Jun has requested permission to begin final assault operations. The Council grants this permission, but we must ask, what assurance do we have that human forces won't turn this military capability against peaceful civilizations?" Tejo smiled calmly. "Director, humans have a saying, we fight wars so that our children can live in peace. Everything we do is dedicated to creating a galaxy where violence is unnecessary." The assault began with Captain Dayun's fighter squadrons creating diversions at 12 different points around the stronghold. Her pilots flew in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually carefully coordinated to draw enemy fire away from the main attack vectors. Colonel Minji's Special Forces teams had already infiltrated the outer defenses, using techniques that the Vorthak hive mind couldn't detect. Her soldiers moved through biomechanical corridors like ghosts, placing charges and disrupting communication nodes with surgical precision. Dr. Hyejin's medical teams had developed a final biological weapon, a virus specifically designed to shut down Vorthak neural networks without causing permanent damage. As human forces penetrated the stronghold, they released the virus into the facility's life support systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. Vorthak defenders began moving erratically as their hive mind connection failed. Individual bioships started attacking each other as confused.